All right, well, thank you everyone for joining our session today, Machine Learning for JD Edwards, the Citizen Data Scientist. My name is David Kettinger, and I'll just start with some basic housekeeping here. I'll try to leave some time at the end for Q&A, so please be sure to submit any questions that you may have as we go along in the chat window, and I'll try to get to those at the end of the presentation. Also, we will be making the slides from the presentation available as well as a link to the webinar recording in case you have to leave early. So automated machine learning is changing the playing field for data professionals. You don't need to have a PhD in data analytics or heavy programming skills in order to uncover advanced insights. And what I'll show you today is really the future of BI and analytic platforms that will enable this role of the citizen data scientist or the everyday analyst to start to derive meaningful information from constantly growing data sources. So let's go ahead and get started. A little bit about myself. I started my career analyzing financial investments, and after seeing how rapidly the data analytics field was evolving, I decided to take the leap into data analytics when I pursued my post-grad degree in management information systems. Since then, I've been working with many of the industry standard data platforms and keeping a constant pulse on the evolution of these tools. So the agenda for today is to start out with a brief introduction to what data science and machine learning is, and then we'll look at how these fields are being applied to the business. We'll also learn how these technologies are being integrated into modern BI and data analytic platforms to enable everyone to generate and use advanced analytics. Next, I'll show a demo of these features connected to JD Edwards data using Microsoft's Power BI platform. And then lastly, we'll summarize with how preferred strategies can help you get started using these tools. All right, so before we move forward, let's go over a few basic definitions here. Artificial intelligence has really become a catch-all term that refers to scenarios where a machine or a computer system mimics the functions of human minds, such as learning and problem solving. And there's many different types of artificial intelligence or AI, and machine learning is one type of AI that gives computers the ability to learn without being programmed to do so. And the general principle here is to apply a statistical algorithm to a large data set of usually historical or current data to uncover relationships between the fields in order to make predictions. And an algorithm is simply a set of rules that are followed during problem-solving operations. All right, so last one here, data science. Data science is really an interdisciplinary field that uses scientific methods and processes and algorithms to extract insights from data. And it really combines computer science and IT with math and statistics, as well as business domain knowledge from subject matter experts in order to enable data-driven decision making. And these data-driven decisions can ultimately lead to things like increased profitability, improved operational efficiencies, as well as performance and workflows in your business. So as consumers, we are exposed to AI every day, from your Netflix recommendations to your Google Maps route. All this intelligence behind these predictions is powered by machine learning algorithms. And a couple examples I like are around Netflix and Amazon recommendations. So about 75% of what people watch on Netflix is based on their recommendation algorithm, which uses machine learning in order to classify content and predict what you're going to enjoy. Similar technology is used by companies like Amazon to predict and recommend items that are sold together or related items that you might also be interested in. So as you can see, there are many applications of data science that your company can benefit from. I challenge you to start to think about some of the scenarios that may help your organization as we go through this presentation. One example that I like for JDE customers is centered around predictive maintenance for manufacturing operations. So we can use machine learning to predict when a piece of manufacturing equipment is going to fail so that we can go ahead and take action before it actually does. Furthermore, we can use prescriptive analytics to determine what part of the equipment is going to fail, and then we can even submit a service ticket to our maintenance team so they can go and fix it before this failure actually does occur. So if data science is so great and awesome, then why isn't everybody doing it? Well, there are some barriers of entry or a few challenges that all enterprises are facing, and the first one is just there's really just too much data to analyze manually. You have data from on-prem relational databases like JD Edwards. You have cloud data from IoT devices and social media, as well as software as a service platform. And this list really just keeps growing and growing. Next, there's really just a shortage of people that have PhDs in data science and machine learning and that have the skills to model all of this data effectively. And then even if you are lucky enough to get this far, you then have to figure out how to actually operationalize these models within the business to produce value. So despite these challenges, there are real benefits that can be added by applying data science within the business. And the goal in any organization is to move from the sort of traditional descriptive analytics or what happened to predictive or prescriptive analytics, which tells us what will happen and what we should do when it does happen. And the problem with this picture, as you can see, is that when we go up in the value to the business or the y-axis, we can see that we are also increasing the difficulty involved. However, with new technologies that automate machine learning, analytical tools are enabling analysts without programming skills or degrees in data science to leverage advanced analytics. So Gartner defines a citizen data scientist as a person who creates or generates machine learning models that use advanced analytics to answer business questions, but whose primary job function is outside of the field of statistics or analytics. I like to think of it sort of like WordPress for data analytics. So WordPress allowed anyone to create a website within a few clicks without needing a degree in web development. And similarly, citizen data science attempts to do the exact same thing for data analytics. So the goal here is to create a platform upon which anyone can extract insights from large amounts of data using AI and machine learning technology that's already been integrated into their BI platform, such as Microsoft's Power BI, which we'll be looking at today. All right, so how did all this come about? Those of you that have been around for a while probably have noticed some of these BI waves, if you will. When we started on this BI train, it was led really by data experts in the IT department who are in charge of everything from data preparation to reporting and data visualization. So we had scorecards and KPIs and fancy dashboards, but really these tools were largely inaccessible by the broader enterprise audience, which means that if your business users had a question, they had long wait times in order to get answers from the IT department. So by the late 2000s, this all started to shift to more of a self-service BI trend where we're enabling power users and data analysts to do some of the data preparation as well as data discovery and visualization. But when governance started to factor into this equation, we noticed that the right checks and balances were not in place to manage this change in roles, which led to data silos and inconsistency in calculations, and really just shadow IT systems that became hard to manage. So this new wave, which is sort of this smart analytics wave, it's really IT enabled, but the data analysis and data visualization is done by your business users. And this incorporates technologies such as natural language processing, smart visualizations, automated insights, and other AI-enabled capabilities. And this wave is not without its challenges. Most of the challenges revolve around, how can I trust the machine learning models and the underlying algorithms? How can I trust the calculations and the predictions, etc. All right, so in today's demo, we'll see how we can apply some of these new technologies connected to some sample JDE data. We'll take on two personas. The first one will be that of the VP of sales for our fictitious consumer electronics organization, and we'll walk through consuming insights within Power BI. And then in the second role, we'll switch to an analyst and see how augmented analytics can help really create some compelling reports and dashboards. Hey Cortana, show VP of Sales dashboard. So as you can see, thanks Cortana. So as you can see, we've integrated Power BI with this smart AI agent or voice recognition, natural language processing systems. So similar technology is being worked on with Alexa and Siri and Google. But basically, you're going to be able to talk to your data. So what I've done now is just pulled up a dashboard called VP of Sales dashboard, and this is what I use to monitor my most important sales metrics. So you can see we're having some issues with our online channel, and our computing sales is really it's typically around 20% of my sales across my product groups. It looks like it's down to 11. So if we want to check out what's going on, we can just open this up in the web by clicking on this link here. And what that does is opens up a dashboard in the Power BI service, or the cloud component of the Power BI platform. And a dashboard is simply just an at-a-glance view of your most important business metrics. So it can be made up of visualizations from one or more reports. So in this case, we have visuals coming from actually two different reports. And if we want to go from this dashboard view into a more detailed view, we can drill down to the actual report that is supporting the dashboard. So you can see we have a sales overview report here with a couple KPIs and then some information around sales and gross profit. And the beauty of Power BI is everything is fully interactive. So if I start clicking on some of these elements, you can see now I'm changing all of the visuals to just show me the data for the central region. I could also drill into this visual by right-clicking and choosing drill down. And now I can go to the next level in my data hierarchy, which is my sales rep. And now I can see I have some issues with Jason Lee. And right now I'm looking at this by month, or excuse me, year to date. If I want to change it, maybe I want to look at it by month to date, I can just click and you can see now I'm analyzing all of my data for the month to date time calculation. If we want to go from more aggregated views of our data into more detailed views, I could right click and this time choose to drill through, and we can drill through to certain detailed reports that we have set up. So I could choose my sales rep analysis here, and now you'll see that Jason Lee has been passed as a filter to this sales rep details report. And now I could start figuring out exactly what's going on with Jason Lee. So I'll navigate back up here to my dashboard, and let's look at some of the augmented analytic capabilities that have been built into this dashboard layer of Power BI. So if we come up here to ask a question about your data, this is really just leveraging natural language query and processing technology so that I can just use natural questions without having to know SQL or call my IT department in order to get answers. So if I want to figure out what's going on with my computing sales, I could just type in computing sales amount by maybe our products, and that's going to go ahead and just give me the breakdown of each product within that product group. And if I like this visualization, I can go ahead and just pin this to my dashboard and go check that out by clicking on Go to Dashboard. And now I can see I have this this further analysis as to what may be happening with my computing product group. So if I'm interested in a certain metric or measure, So let's pick on gross profit percentage for this example, and I click on this ellipsis option here. I can do a few different things. The first thing I could do is just set up a data-driven alert. So if I, as the VP of sales, want to have a dynamic data-driven alert around my gross profit percent, I can come in here and add some logic. So maybe every time my gross profit margin falls below 50%, I'm going to get notified, and it's important, so I can change it to at most once every hour, and it's also going to send me an email as well. So once I'm happy with that logic, I can save and close it, and now I have an alert around this gross profit percent set up. So the next thing I can do is come in here and click View Insights. What that's going to do is run some machine learning algorithms over my data model and try and find some insights that involve my gross profit percent. And you can see some summary statistics up here. And if I minimize that, you can see that Power BI has actually gone and created some smart visuals for me. So you can scroll through these and see which ones may be the most meaningful for you. I happen to like this first one, which is the sales amount and gross profit percent have outliers around a few different dates. So if I want to maybe hone in on this and ask my different business managers what's going on, I can pin this to my dashboard and have that later as a talking point in my next meeting. And I didn't have to know anything about outlier detections or algorithms, and you can see that I have some dates in here that have very high profit margins. So maybe I want to see what was going on with those particular dates and how we can recreate that success. So you also notice that we have this ability to get quick insights, and instead of running machine learning algorithms that's focused specifically on the gross profit percent, this is going to run a set of algorithms of your entire data model and look for any statistically significant information, and go ahead and create some visuals around that so that we can explore those as well. And the great thing about these machine learning algorithms is they go into an analysis with an unbiased approach. So as an analyst or the VP of sales, I may have some preconceived notions of why things may be occurring, which may cause some bias in my analysis. But machine learning algorithms are great because they're very unbiased. So if I choose View Insights here, you'll notice a bunch of cards and some visuals and kind of a summary of what's going on inside that visual. So some of them, there's a correlation between product subgroup and item description. Well, I would expect that. So that one's not quite as useful. But you'll find other ones to be more useful. So this one, for example, is gross profit percent for my Northeast region has outliers. And if I hover over that, I can see I went up to about 80% for my gross profit margin, or gross profit percent, excuse me. But then I also have a sharp decline here. So perhaps I want to call up my regional manager for Northeast and figure out why we're having such large fluctuation in our margin. So if I like a certain insight here that was created from these algorithms, I can go ahead and just pin this as well to my dashboard. So I'll choose pin and go to dashboard. And now you can see these smart insights or insights that were created automatically right on my dashboard. All right, so we'll go ahead and take a look at and we'll go ahead and just drill into another report and see some of the insights we can gain at the report layer of Power BI. So I'll just click and drill into a report, and now we can see the same interactivity. So if I click on something, it's going to update the other visuals in order to reflect on my selection. If I hover over one of the elements, you can see I have the ability to add some report page tooltips to give me some additional context around my data. So if I hover over different elements in my visuals, you can see it's updating to show me the gross profit for that particular element. You also notice this Q&A button up here in the top right, And this is leveraging the same natural language query and processing technology that we saw at the dashboard level, but now we can, if we have questions while we're analyzing a report here, we can go and just start exploring those insights, right? Just by typing in natural language right into this Q&A dialogue. And you'll notice I have some suggested questions that have been set up by my analyst. So if I click through these, I can see some further insights that perhaps they thought would be useful. Top 3 products and groups by region. And you'll notice here that that's only showing me central. So that's because it's actually passing through the filter context from my report, which I have central selected. And if I uncheck that, come back in here, you'll notice that it's actually going to show me all my regions now. And perhaps I didn't want to, maybe top 3 isn't really what's helpful for me, and I really want to know what the bottom 3 product groups are. So I can type in bottom here, and just on the fly, get an answer just by typing in one word here. So that's how they've baked in this natural language query experience into the report layer of Power BI. And as I continue on, I can click on the different pages of my report down here. So again, if I click on retail, you'll notice that the visuals are highlighting instead of filtering in this particular example. If we keep going, we have a geography tab here. So we can select maybe Missouri, which has our highest sales, and see that Jason's doing pretty good for that state. And I could right click on here and do the same thing and drill through to get some more details around Jason. And I can see that he's actually doing pretty good as far as my KPIs indicate, but our quantities are a little bit lower than they were a prior year. And if I want to get some further insights, I can right click on one of these visuals, and I could choose to analyze and then find where the distribution is different. So what this is going to do is run a couple algorithms over our data set and find some fields or some dimension filters that cause the distribution of sales amount by channel to change the most. So for instance, if we look at this first one that was created, we can see that Minnesota has about 37% of our sales, and Missouri is about 61% of sales for Jason's performance. And if we check out for Minnesota, it looks like he's doing a lot more of retail sales and almost no online sales. But if we click on Missouri, we can see the opposite is true. He's doing really good for online and not so good for retail. So perhaps I want to call up Jason or Jason's manager and figure out, why he's having success in one channel for one state versus not having as much success in the other channel. And if we scroll through these, you can see that Power BI has done similar analysis around many different dimensions or data fields within the data model here. So this is a great way to leverage automated insights that are produced via machine learning algorithms. So the last thing I'll show you as a consumer here, if we click on the profit trends tab of this report, we can see that we have this sort of executive summary bulleted list here outlined for us that kind of analyzes the gross profit trends for this company. And if we click on something in our report, we'll notice that it's actually dynamic and it's rewriting itself depending upon what's selected. So, if I'm coming in here and I want to focus my analysis just around retail sales, perhaps for the West, it's going to rewrite that and recalculate all this on the fly so that we can have, descriptive narratives around what's going on. And this is leveraging a technology called natural language generation, which is actually a custom visual called Narratives from a company called Narrative Science. And this is just a partner of Power BI that's created a visualization that can be added to your Power BI report. All right, so now let's switch gears and we'll put on the analyst hat. And let's say that I want to, my VP of sales asked me to get some, perhaps some more insights around our sales trends and maybe some forecasting information. So what I can do is just download this file, and it's called a PBIX file, which is really just a Power BI report extension. And I can open that up in the Power BI desktop, which is really it's a free download from Microsoft. So you can go out to powerbi.com and get started today, just downloading Power BI desktop and start connecting to some of your data. So once this opens up, we can go ahead and just create a new page down here at the bottom of our report. So I can click the plus icon here, and maybe we'll call this one forecast. And we could also add this as a title just by adding a text box, and maybe we'll make this bold and a little bit bigger. So now we have a title for our report. We can go ahead and get started creating some new visuals. So similar to how the Q&A experience or the natural language query experience works for dashboards and reports as a consumer, it's been built into the developer process as well. And this is really how Microsoft envisions analysts creating visualizations moving forward. Instead of having to drag and drop data fields, you're really just going to start asking questions about your data. So, for example, if I want to analyze my sales amount by sales rep, I can just type that in, and you'll see that Power BI has created a visual, which is a bar chart with my sales reps and their sales amounts, which is exactly what I wanted. And if I double click over here, you'll notice that I can now do the same thing, but maybe we'll create a trend analysis. So I'll do sales amount by year period. And now we have a line chart, which is exactly how I would like to visualize it. And you can also see that everything's aligned as well. So again, this is fully interactive. So as I start clicking around, you'll see that it's adjusting. And we have the ability to add some further details in this visualization via this analytics pane. So if I click over here, you'll notice that I have, trend, constants, mins, max, and a lot of different analytic components I could add to this visual. I'm going to go ahead and add a trend line here. So now we can see how each of our sales reps are trending, whether it's up or down. And the next thing I'll add to this visualization is a forecast. So if I come down here to forecast, I can choose add, and without having to know how to configure a forecasting algorithm, I could just set a few of these parameters as a business analyst. So let's say I want to forecast out for a quarter. I'm going to go ahead and put 6 in here, and I'll tell you why in a second. Instead of points, we're going to do months. And this ignore last parameter we'll set to 3. So basically we're going to hindcast, or we're going to ignore the last 3 months so that we can test how accurate our algorithm is. So this confidence interval basically sets how accurate do you want the forecast to try and be. So if we leave it at 95%, then 95% of the time our observed data point will fall within the upper and lower bound of our forecasting algorithm. And if we set the seasonality to be 12 months, since there's 12 months in a year, and then apply that, we can see now that the forecast has gone and updated. So again, this is all interactive. So if I click on Jason Lee over here, I can see that this now is just showing me the forecast for Jason, and we can click through our different sales reps and see that some of the forecasts are a little more accurate than others based on this is all based on prior data that we're feeding it, and obviously the more data that we feed our machine learning model, the more accurate it will be. So again, we can just click through this and see how it's forecasting for our different sales reps. But if we come back here to the overall view of our sales, we can see that the actual amount actually fell off pretty significantly, even more so than what we had forecasted for the last quarter of 2018. So how can we explain this? How can we explain this sharp decrease? I can try and add some information around product. So perhaps I'll do this. I'll do sales amount and gross profit percent by product. And you can see now that Power BI has created this scatter chart for me, which is great. And if I open this up in focus mode, we can format it a little bit. Perhaps we'll add some category labels just so we can see what these data points represent. And wouldn't it be great if we could just find some classifications of products within our data set here? Well, actually we can if we just click on this automatically find clusters option. What it's going to do is, without having to know how to run a k-means clustering algorithm, we can automatically find some clusters in our data set here around different groups of products. So you'll notice now that we have 4 different clusters. Perhaps we have a green cluster that represents high sales dollars, and then this purple or high margin product cluster, and then we have a group of middle of the road products, and then some lagging products down here represented in the blue cluster. So we'll come back to the report now, and you'll notice over here in the data fields pane that it's actually added a data field called product clusters to my data model. So what that means is I can actually reuse this throughout my analysis or throughout my report. So if I just drag this into this visual and maybe change the type, now I can see my performance by cluster for each of my sales reps. And again, this is all interactive. So if I want to see perhaps how my high margin group of products is going to perform in the future, I can just click on it, and now I can see that well, it's actually trending. It trended down for the last quarter of last year, but it's actually predicted to go up in the first quarter of 2019, which is great because we want to sell more, obviously, of our high margin products. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and remove that legend from this visualization, and we'll come back to the question of why did sales fall off so rapidly in the last quarter. Well, if I come in here, I can use this automated insights feature, and this time I'll choose analyze and explain the decrease. So what that's going to do is it's going to run a set of algorithms over this data in order to find or try and explain why sales fell off by 17% between September and October of 2018. And so this first option, or first visual or insight that Power BI found was around our customers, and we can see that we had a big problem with Sears for this time frame. So maybe I want to call up my account managers that manage our Sears account and figure out what's going on there. So without having to know how to make a waterfall chart in Power BI or how to create a variance calculation, I can just simply add that to the report here, maybe resize it a little bit. And again, this is all going to be interactive. So if I click on one of my sales reps, we can see exactly how his performance impacted that time frame as well. So we'll add one more insight here. We'll do the same thing and analyze and explain the decrease. And you'll notice down here that we have some options to change the visualization that Power BI creates around each insight that it finds. So if we scroll down here, we have some stuff around our different products, our product subgroups and products and cities. And I'm after maybe some state information. So if I keep scrolling down through here, you'll notice that I have a visual or insight around my different states' performance. So I'm going to go ahead and change this to this scatter chart. And this is actually a pretty advanced visual to make. You got some symmetry shading and a trend line here. And I can go ahead and just add this to my report as well. And you can see Power BI places it in the canvas where it thinks it should go, and sure enough, I do want it to be there. And again, this is fully, this is part of my report now, so I can start to configure this any way that I want. So if I want to be able to maybe drill into one of these data points, I can just create a hierarchy. So from state, maybe I want to then further analyze it by my product groups and then my product subgroups. And now, in addition to being fully interactive, I can also drill into these points. So for Illinois, I could drill in and drill down and see what the performance was in this time frame for each of my product groups, or I could go even further and then look at how my different product subgroups were performing. So I'll go ahead and just drill back up here using these arrows, and now that I'm at a point where I'm happy with this insight in this report state, and I'm going to go ahead and publish this back up to the Power BI service for my VP of Sales. So I'll go ahead and save this, and I'll choose the workspace, which is really just a shared folder for for my VP of Sales to interact with the content in PowerBI.com, and choose Select. And that's going to go ahead and publish this file up into the software as a service PowerBI.com component of the Power BI platform. So once that's done, I'll choose Open, and now we'll see that same report, but now it's obviously in the Power BI service, and I can choose to pin this visual, this forecasting visual, to my VP of Sales dashboard. So I'll choose Pin here, and we'll go check that out and make sure that it's there. And if we scroll down, yep, there it is. Maybe you want to reposition this, maybe to make it a little bigger. So now we can see that we've downloaded the report, created some additional insights using augmented analytics, and then republish that for my VP of Sales to use. So we'll come back in here to PowerPoint and keep moving forward. So I showed you Power BI, and that's really the data exploration, visualization, and augmented analytics platform. And there's also some more advanced tools from Microsoft that we could use for machine learning. There's Azure Machine Learning, which is a cloud-based graphical user interface that it's a low-code, no-code environment to start configuring some predictive models. And then there's also there's some integration being built into Excel so that we can leverage machine learning from all of our company's Excel worksheets. And then finally, you also have SQL Server data tools, which is more of the developer tool. So if you're pretty technical and want to get started with Microsoft's machine learning tools, then you could check out SQL Server data tools. All right, so generally when we think of data scientists, we think about them spending their day building algorithms, exploring data, and doing predictive analysis, but this is really not true. There's about 80% of their time is spent simply just collecting data, cleaning the data, and organizing it into a state that's ready for analytics. So this is where preferred strategies and quick launch can really start to add value to your reporting and analytics initiative. We were founded in 2002 with the focus on bridging the gap between JD Edwards and the market leading reporting and BI softwares. And we've built a quick launch solution with three main components. We have a software that's tailored for JD Edwards, and we combine that with the best practices and strategies around data analytics and business intelligence. And then finally, we offer professional services to help maximize the success and really help drive the adoption of data analytics within your company. So this is sort of the traditional data science workflow, and as we mentioned before, to truly get the value out of data, you need to know how to properly extract and relate and model the data into a state where it's ready for analysis. And this is where our quick launch solution really shines by helping you transform the JD Edwards data, and then also be able to have the methodologies in place to tie in other corporate data sources that you may be interested in for your analysis. And well, I'd like to spend a couple minutes now just showing you how we can connect a tool like Power BI directly to a JDE transaction system, and what that experience is like. And then we'll shift gears and see how you can connect to the quick launch solution for JD Edwards to help accelerate the process. So I'll come back over to Power BI and have a new file open here. And if I just choose Get Data, it'll open up the modern Get Data experience from Microsoft, and we'll notice that we have SQL Server, Oracle, and IBM DB2, which are the three JDE database systems. And I'll choose SQL Server for this example. Just go ahead and enter in my server name, and that's going to pull up all of the databases that are located on that server. So I happen to know that my JDE transaction system is in this JDE production database. And then if I start to scroll down, I'll see all of the cryptic table aliases So this is where I really have to have an intimate knowledge of the cryptic backend of JD Edwards in order to get anywhere with this, connecting to the JDE transaction system. So if we want to continue on with this sales example, I would to get to the sales order detailed table, I can type it in right here in the search box. There it is. Sorry, it was taking a minute. And so now we can load this 42119 table, the sales order history table. And then if we want to break this out by our products, we can find the item master table, the 4102 table, and then go ahead and load that. So what that's going to do is it's going to query our productions database and then load all of the records it finds in those two tables into a Power BI data model. So this is obviously probably not a best practice for you if you have multiple users querying your production JDE database, then you could really get into some performance issues. So if we open up one of these tables here, you'll notice that it brings in the data and all of the cryptic column alias names. So again, this is where I'd have to be a savvy JDE analyst and know that my sales amount is actually my SDA EXP field. If I click on that and bring that into my report, you can see it's $20.43 billion in sales, but that seems a little high since we're really like a $20 million company. And so now I have to go through and figure out the decimal precision and how to display that properly within my analysis. So if we try to break this out by our different, sales by item, I would then, need to figure out that my item field is actually this IBL ITM field. And if we change this to be a table visualization, and then we bring that one in. Where'd it go? There it is. Bring that one in, and we can see that for each one of our products, actually, it's showing that it has the same $20.4 billion value across every row. So something's going on, something's not right. If I check out this relationships view in Power BI, I'll notice that there's no relationship between these two tables. And now I'll have to have some knowledge of data modeling and how to create a primary key to join these tables together. And so it gets complicated pretty quickly. So now let's change gears, and now we're going to open up a new file, and instead of connecting to a SQL Server database, we'll connect to a SQL Server Analysis Services database, which is the high performance in-memory analytical database from Microsoft. And as part of the Quick Launch solution, we've already configured one for JD Edwards. And we'll go ahead and connect to the same server. So I'll type in SQL demo here and choose OK. And now we'll see our data models here on this server. If I expand one of these, you'll notice that there's many different perspectives here. And a perspective is really just a subset of the data that is focused around a particular business area. So I'll choose the sales perspective and then choose OK. And that's going to bring in all of the related dimension tables and fact tables that I'll need to analyze JD Edwards sales information. And if I if I click on this customer table and hover over it, we'll see the data lineage from our different fields in our data model. So this is great for helping our analysts, build trust in the model and know, that they're actually analyzing the data that they're meaning to analyze. So if we come and find this sales fact table, you'll notice that we have hundreds of business measures or calculations already defined for you, things like gross profit and quantities. If I expand this sales display folder, you'll see I have business logic around month to date, quarter to date, prior year values, as well as variances already defined and ready to go for me. So if I just want to quickly do that same analysis that I tried to do before, I'll choose my sales amount, come up to my item branch table, and then I'll just bring in my item description, and now we can see all of my different items and their respective sales amounts. So Curve TV seem to be selling pretty well for us. So you can see how easy it is and how fast it is to start getting insights connecting using the Quick Launch for JDE solution. All right, so let's just wrap things up here back in PowerPoint. So Our quick launch solution translates the cryptic backend of JD Edwards so that you can have a great foundation for analytics and data science projects. We're renaming tables like the FO101 to be address and data fields like MCMCU to be business unit, and we're converting dates and decimals and also renaming your UDCs and your CAT codes with business-friendly names. So I hope I convinced everyone to go and download Power BI Desktop for free and start exploring their data, as well as considering using the quick launch for JD Edwards solution to really accelerate your time to value and time to insight. And at this time, I can answer any questions that you may have.